Finally, I get to use the episode title I wanted to for some of this shit.
Gnosis is found wherever Sophia walks and is not dependent upon any school of thought.
It's where the sexual energy is deposited within ourselves. It's where our vitality, our creative energy is there.
Mind, body, and spirit, what we call today the three major divisions of philosophical thinking. Right. Basically, what this is depicting is the person who has self-realization unifies his body, mind, and spirit in such a way that he or she can ascend to the various dimensions of psychic exploration, spiritual creativity, and even in the worlds of science and knowledge as depicted in the book, Understand Astronomy and Cosmology, of other worlds we would call today parallel evolution. Right. You can be Christed if you find the feminine. If you do not find the feminine within you, you can be tormented by a judgmental God or a system of belief that suppresses the inner psyche.
Greetings, fellow worker slave, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is in the kitchen trying to get under the door so he can get into my room and attack Lord Squeakington, but he can't. Buddha is sniffing around on the couch. Ash and Lord Squeakington are in my room doing whatever it is they do. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cats. Get over it. And this is a Pistis Sophia episode where Skullbeard and I read a few chapters from the Pistis Sophia. The next episode will be a news episode. And as you can probably tell by the episode title, this one's going to be a little more interesting than a number of the others have been. I will kill the suspense a little bit. The suggestion for the show title comes fairly early in the topic. So, you know, don't think you're going to have to listen to the whole thing to hear exactly what it was that inspired this. No, it was actually fairly quickly into it, as I recall. Which leaves me a problem. Skullbeard and I recorded this last month, and, we did a whole bunch, chopped out some, made it the last Pistis Sophia episode, and what I had left only turned out to be about half an hour. So, I gotta vamp a little bit here on what to fill it up with, but that won't be hard at all. I actually do have a bunch of things to gab about. Work was fun this week. Had Monday off, worked 12-hour days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Went in on Friday. Right after we got there, lead says, we're going to try to get out of here in 4 hours now. I need the money, of course, but getting out of there in 4 hours sounds good to me. Did not happen. They came up with a whole bunch of busy work to keep us there until 4:30, which felt like I was getting off early. But, I got home, and the first thing I did was crawl into bed to take a nap because I was fucking tired after putting in all those hours this week. And I woke up at about the time I'd normally get off work. So, didn't really gain much of anything other than a little extra sleep. And the rumor is we may not actually have a week off this month or next month. Nobody's really sure. It's just a rumor that one of the leads at works mentioned because business for certain things has picked up. But, we're heading into our slow period, so it seems unlikely it'll pick up really dramatically. But you never know. Just have to see how it goes. And forgive me for being just a hair distracted. Fuzznuts and Buddha are playing, sort of. Buddha has scampered off and is probably preparing for a sneak attack on Fuzznuts, but I don't know. Fuzznuts has decided he wants to stare at me sadly, because he wants to be on Daddy's lap, no matter the fact that, well, it makes it hard for Daddy to podcast, but I don't know. You're a silly boy. In one of the original Hitchhiker's books, I don't remember which one it is now. It's been so long since I've read them. Douglas Adams talks about how Sunday afternoons are the absolute worst for a person with immortality. And even though I don't have immortality, I tend to agree with him that Sunday afternoons are the absolute worst. You can't really do anything. Because, Monday is when you got to go back to work, etc., etc. And, outside it's a really nice night for this time of year. It's, very comfortable outside, nice breeze, which is unusual for this area. And I just, at times like this, I just wish I had, a little place out in the fucking country, away from everybody, and, I didn't have to worry about going to work in the morning. But I don't, and I does, 'cause America. Okay, one thing I'll discuss that I haven't mentioned before on the podcast is, I gave up being religious, as I've said in the past, when I was in church. They were reading from the Sermon on the Mount, and it was talking about the whole, Jesus saying that divorce was bad, etc., etc., and I was like, my parents are divorced, it's better that way. My girlfriend, at the time, her parents were going through a divorce, and, there was no way that her mother staying in that marriage was a good thing. It was easy for me to walk away from religion, but there was a weird bit of irrationality that I had, and I was reminded of this past week, tied to that it took me a long time to get rid of. When that particular girlfriend and I were dating, it was mid-'80s, and she listened to the Top 40 radio station, and I listened to the album-oriented radio station. Because the Top 40 station was light and fluffy, and the album-oriented radio station played, good stuff. Subjectively speaking, of course. I have since learned that many of my musical tastes when I was that age are, not that great. Anyways, there was a weird bit of coincidence that happened. We'd always have the radios on in the background when we were doing stuff, and then I'd call her, she'd call me, we'd, anyways, invariably what would happen is one of us would call the other, and there would be on one of our radio stations when it happened, there would be this one particular song playing. And it was kind of odd that it was, it would always be on one of our radio stations when one of us called. And this was back in the days before there was so much consolidation in the media, so the radio stations were actually owned by two different companies. Now they're probably owned by the same company, if one of them's even around, or either of them, I don't know anymore. But anyways, if I called her, the radio station she was listening to would be playing this particular song, which was the Boys of Summer by Don Henley. And then, about the time we'd hang up, the radio station I listened to would be playing that song. So it sort of became our song, even though it was, kind of maudlin or creepy stalkerish. if you think about it. I mean, it's about a guy who, he's still in love with his girlfriend after all these, however long it is. And he's like driving by her house and all this shit. And he keeps telling her, he'll be in love, he's still going to be in love with her after, the boys of summer have gone, which presumably would be baseball season. Anyways, about the time we broke up was about the time that song fell off the charts. So we stopped hearing it. But there would still be little weird coincidences every now and then that I would notice. And, obviously selection bias. I would hear the song and then, just randomly turn around and there she is. Of course, small town, small school, small circle of friends, etc., etc. The odds of us running into one another were pretty high anyways. And we probably ran into each other a whole bunch of times and I never heard that song. But, of course, it got twisted into my mind that somehow it was linked to our destiny, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And when I went to college, I started hanging around with this guy by the name of Andrew Crowell, who he was a talented musician. And he was also into this, all the kinds of occult stuff. I mean, he'd been a member of the OTO, was into Aleister Crowley, had, and then somehow had become, greater than all that and gone on to shamanism, I think is what he was, that he was into when I knew him. And he had rather esoteric tastes. And so, in a lot of things, it broadened my horizons greatly. But, also kept feeding the woo parts of my life. So, and I stayed obsessed about this whole thing for years and then eventually, got over it, forgot about it, realized I was kind of silly about it. So, anyways, last week, one of the days, we have a radio in our department. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the past or not, but the radio was tuned a lot of times, depending on who gets to it first. It'll be tuned to either the urban station, which is, it wouldn't be bad, but they play Steve Harvey's morning show on it, and Steve Harvey is an asshole. Supposedly he cheated on, several of his ex-wives, also screwed one of his wives out of their child support. Those are just things I've seen on the internet. I don't know how true they are. But the thing that he did that really ticked me off, besides the, this quote that he supposedly said, "I don't understand atheists, why, if we came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys?" I don't know if he said that or not. That's a stupid quote. But when he moved his radio show from Atlanta to Los Angeles, he fired his staff in Atlanta. And somebody there decided to get a little bit of revenge and leak some memos he'd sent to everybody. One of them, was explaining to the staff why, he was letting them go, which, I can understand why you have to let some of them go, because, you're going to need people who are familiar with the area if you're moving across the country. So obviously you would want to keep, you would want the people, you would hire local people, because, if you want somebody to go out and get you coffee, you need to have somebody who knows, the best coffee places in the area. Not somebody who's learning the city like you are. But he fired everybody. And, with the, "Well, we've got to take the show in a new direction" comment. And he sent a memo, part of that memo that letting him go says, "Now, if you want to come out and visit me, that's fine, but you must make an appointment to see me like everybody else. Don't think that you can just drop by." it's like, well, dude, I don't think anybody that you just fired is going to want to see you ever again. And the other memo was his instructions for his staff. And I think it was for the new staff. It may have been the ones that the old staff had been subjected to. I don't know. But it was this bullshit like, you are not to speak to me unless spoken to. You are not to look me in the eye. You know, if you see me in the hall, do not wave and say, hey, Steve, I'm a very busy man. I don't have time for little pleasantries and things like that. And he caught a lot of flack from it when that hit the media. And his reaction was not to apologize or say he was mistaken, just to say, well, I phrased everything wrong. The only other celebrity I know of who has a similar thing of, the staff is not supposed to look them in the eye and things like that is Sylvester Stallone. He's another celebrity. I don't pay any, I don't watch any of these movies anymore since learning that. If I get to the radio, I will tune it to the top 40 station. I'm not a huge fan of the top 40 station. I do like some of the music that it plays. And, at least it had, they do play stuff I haven't heard 14,000 times. Or, the other thing about the urban radio station is they will pick a song. And they won't announce this or anything like that, but it's just something you have to figure out when you listen to it. They pick a song once a month, and they play it every 30 minutes. And it's the only song they will play that frequently. And it's just like, why, guys? Give me some variety. Give me something different. But honestly, they have a very narrow band, even though they play hip-hop, R&B, and some other style of music. They all have a very narrow band, and it all sounds very, very similar. And then the other station that gets played is the classic rock radio station. And this is all the crap that I grew up with, and a lot of it I don't like anymore. And a lot of it I just don't, okay, Led Zeppelin had some great songs, but I don't need to hear Stairway to Heaven or, that's about all they play. Led Zeppelin. I don't need to hear that anymore. Let me hear something else from Led Zeppelin's catalog. But no, Stairway to Heaven, there's a handful of songs by like the Doors that they'll play. I can't think of a single Jimi Hendrix song that I heard. That's the other thing that I noticed about it is, they play a wider range of music than the album-oriented radio station I used to listen to played, but it's not. They don't play any Jimi Hendrix. The album-oriented radio station I used to listen to when I was growing up played Jimi Hendrix. No Jimi Hendrix on this station. So, anyways, one day this past week, the cranky old guy in the department, who's not me, got the radio and he tuned it to the classic rock radio station. And, so I'm just sitting there. Well, not sitting there working. And one of the songs it plays is The Boys of Summer by Don Henley. And I'm, makes me a little nostalgic. And when I get home that night, I'm like, I haven't seen that video in so long. Let me go look for it on YouTube. I did kind of like the video. So I go to YouTube and I start, searching for the video. Well, there are videos of Don Henley performing the song, but they're not the original video. They're all live performances and things like that. And then there's like fan tribute videos and cover videos. And I'm just like, and I'm scrolling through all this mess, because despite all their promises, YouTube hasn't figured out how to do their search engine right. And then I stumble across a cover video, which I found rather disturbing. The cover video, the cover song was a bootleg that somebody did from a live show that Taylor Swift did somewhere. I don't know where. Now, the thing that I found disturbing about this is that Taylor Swift looks almost identical to my girlfriend from high school. I mean, Taylor Swift does her makeup and hair a lot better than my girlfriend did, but, it wouldn't take a lot of tweaking of a photo of my girlfriend from high school to make it look like she was Taylor Swift. So I found, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And this whole, there's this little voice nagging me in the back of the head saying, well, this means something. Of course it doesn't. It's just a fucking weird coincidence that happens all the time. And I just happened to notice it. But, that little nagging voice in the back of me, well, this means something, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I live not too far from where Taylor Swift grew up. I've never met her. Supposedly she, when I was working at Walmart, she would come in there all the time. I never saw her. I wouldn't have known who she was at the time because that was back in her country phase, and I don't listen to no country music. So, if I'd saw her then, I didn't remember it. But it's just weird, and there's that part of my brain that says, well, all this means something, and it's like, no, it doesn't. You're being stupid. And it's that little irrational part that we all have, and in this case it's mine, and it just nags at me for some reason. And of course, when you're sleep deprived, like I tend to be, especially when I put in the 12 hours, because get home from work, stop, get something to eat, and then get home, and that's about an hour after I've gotten off work, and I gotta unwind a bit, check the email, check Facebook, see if anybody I know has said anything that's important I need to respond to, things like that. By the time I do all that, it's late, I gotta get to bed. I don't really have time to do much of anything around the house, but that tends to leave me sleep deprived, and when you're sleep deprived, it's hard to think rationally. So, the old noggin just goes crazy about shit like that. Okay, I need to shuffle off here, get some sleep. I'm sure you're just chomping at the bit for more of Skullbeard and I reading from the Pistis Sophia, so here it comes. Enjoy. Mary continued again and said, "My lord, doth the dragon of the outer darkness come into this world, or doth he not come?" Well, if he's on heroin, he's not going to come. The Savior answered and said unto Mary, "When the light of the sun is outside above the world, he covereth the darkness of the dragon. But if the sun is below the world," so they're flat earthers, fuck these assholes, "then the darkness of the dragon abideth as veiling of the sun, and the breath of the darkness cometh into the world in the form of a smoke in the night." Oh, so like Siberia right now, which is on fire.
Yep.
"That is, if the sun withdraweth into himself his rays, then indeed the world is not able to endure the darkness of the dragon in its true form, otherwise would it be dissolved and go to ruin withal."
When the Savior had said this, Mary continued again and said unto the Savior, "My Lord, still do I question thee, and hide it not from me. Now therefore, my Lord, who compelleth then the man until he sinneth?" The Savior answered and said unto Mary, "It is the rulers of the fate who compel the man until he sinneth." Okay, who are the rulers of the fate? Are they the demons we listed off in the last chapter or whatever?
Yeah, or are they the Greek?
Yeah, it's open to interpretation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mary answered and said unto the Savior, "My Lord, surely the rulers do not come down to the world and compel the man until he sinneth." The Savior answered and said unto Mary, They do not come down in this manner into the world, but the rulers of the fate, when an old soul is about to come down through them, then the rulers of that great fate who are in the regions of the head of the eons, which is that region which is called the region of the kingdom of Adamas, and which is that region which is in the face of the Virgin of Light, then the rulers of the region of that head give the old soul a cup of forgetfulness out of the seed of wickedness, filled with all the different desires and all forgetfulness. And straightway when that soul shall drink out of the cup, it forgetteth all the regions of which it hath gone, and all the chastisements in which it hath travelled, and that cup of the water of forgetfulness becometh body outside the soul, and it resembleth the man in all of its figures, and maketh itself like it, which is what is called the counterfeiting spirit.
Now,
Really?
now I'm confused. I mean, not that there should be any surprise,
No.
but because earlier it basically said that people were created with, their true spirit, the body, and the counterfeiting spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And the three were at war with one another.
Oh, yeah. We got the demon on each shoulder or whatever.
Yeah,
Demon
yeah.
angel.
And this seems to indicate that your first life you get to go through without the counterfeiting spirit, and it's only after the first life.
Oh, so that's like a run on easy mode?
Yeah, and then
Something?
it's the second and third life that you end up with the counterfeiting spirit, which makes no sense. I mean, because
It makes as much sense as any of this.
well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, so like, my question is, okay, you go through the first pass, no counterfeiting spirit. Okay, die, get your counterfeiting spirit. You go through your second pass. Okay, you die. Do you get a third counterfeiting spirit?
I have no idea.
Got me. Maybe they'll get an answer for that. I doubt it. But
Nothing satisfactory anyway.
yeah. If, on the other hand, it is a new soul which they have taken out of the sweat of the rulers and out of the tears of their eyes, or far rather out of the breath of their mouths, in a word, if it is one of the new souls, or one of such souls, if it is one out of the sweat, then of the five great rulers of the great fate take up the sweat of all the rulers of their aeons, knead it together withal, portion it, and make it into a soul. So your ball sweat. We are all ball sweat. That's the fucking show title. Hang on. That's.
Nice.
I gotta notate that because I will forget it. I mean, that's better than Laguna Matata. We are all ball sweat. That'll get some downloads.
Yeah.
Or far rather, if it is refuse of the purification of the light, then Melchizedek taketh it up from the rulers. The five great rulers of the great fate need the refuse together, so we're made out of garbage. We're ball sweat and garbage.
Ball, sweat, and garbage.
That's the title. Ball sweat and garbage. Boy, that's better than Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the five great rulers of the great fate need the refuse together, portion it, and make it into different souls, so that every one of the rulers of the aeons, every one of them putteth his portion into the soul. For this cause they need it jointly, so that all may partake of the soul. Don't bogart that soul. That's another good one.
Geez. It's going to be hard to pick one.
Yeah.
And the five great rulers, if they portion it and make it into souls, bring it out of the sweat of the rulers. But if it is one out of the refuse of the purification of the light, then Melchizedek, the great receiver of the light, taketh it, and the refuse, up from the rulers, or far rather, if it is out of the tears of their eyes, or out of the breath of their mouth, in a word, out of such souls, when the 5 rulers portion it, and make it into different souls, or far rather, if it is an old soul, then the ruler who is in the head of the aeons himself mixeth the cup of forgetfulness with the seed of wickedness, and he mixeth it with every one of the new souls at the time which he is in the region of the head, and that cup of forgetfulness becometh the counterfeiting spirit for that soul, and bideth outside the soul, being a vesture for it, and resembling it in every way, being envelope as vesture outside of it. Huh?
Yeah. So this sounds like they're explaining how the counterfeiting souls show up on the new folks.
Well, it is of the fashioning of a new soul.
And the 5 great rulers of the great fate of the aeons, and the ruler of the disk of the sun, and the ruler of the disk of the moon, in breathe within to that soul, and there cometh forth out of them a portion of my power, which the last helper hath cast into the mixture. And the portion of that power remaineth within the soul, unloosed and existing on its own authority, for the economy unto which it hath been inset, to give sense unto the soul, in order that it may seek after the works of the light of the height always. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I know. That's some great word salad, and it appears they're flat earthers or something.
Yeah.
And that power is like the species of the soul in every form, and resembleth it. It cannot be outside the soul, but remaineth inside it, as I have commanded it from the beginning. When I willed it cast into the first commandment, I gave it commandment to remain outside. Inside the soul for the economy of the first mystery. These mystery economies, what the hell is that shit?
And so I will tell you at the expansion of the universe all these words concerning the power, and also concerning the soul, after what type they are fashioned, or what ruler fashioneth them, or what are the different species of the souls. And so I will tell you at the expansion of the universe how many fashion the soul, and I will tell you the name of all of them who fashion the soul, and I will tell you the type, how the counterfeiting spirit and the destiny hath been prepared. And I will tell you the name of the soul before it is purged, and moreover its name when it hath been purged and become pure. And I will tell you the name of the counterfeiting spirit, and I will tell you the name of the destiny, and I will tell you the name of all the bonds with which the rulers bind the counterfeiting spirit to the soul. And I will tell you the name of all the deckhands who fashion the soul in the bodies of the soul in the world. And I will tell you in what manner the souls are fashioned. And I will tell you the type of every one of the souls, and I will tell you the type of the souls of the men, but not women, and of those of the birds, and those of the wild beasts, and of the reptiles. Wait, animals do have souls. That's a contradiction of everything else.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I will tell you the type of all the souls, and of all those rulers who are sent into the world, in order that ye may be completed in all knoweth. And this will I tell you at the expansion of the universe. And after all this I will tell you wherefore all this hath come to pass.
Hearken therefore, that I may discourse with you concerning the soul, according as I have said. The 5 great rulers of the great fate of the eons, and the rulers of the disk of the sun, and the rulers of the disk of the moon, breathe into that soul, and there cometh out of them a portion of my power, as I have just said. And the portion of that power remaineth within the soul, so that the soul could stand. And they put the counterfeiting spirit outside the soul, watching it, and assigned to it, and the rulers bind it to the soul with their seals and their bonds, and seal it to it, that it may compel it always, so that it continually doeth its mischiefs and all its iniquities, in order that it may be their slave always, and remain under their sway always in the charge of the body, and they seal it to it, for it may be in all the sin and all the desires of the world.
For this,
I think this is a setup.
For this cause, therefore, have I in this manner brought the mysteries into this world, which undo all the bonds of the counterfeiting spirit, and all the seals which are bound to the soul. Those which make the soul free, and free from its parents, the rulers, and make it into refined light, and lead it up into the kingdom of its Father, the first issue, the first mystery, forever. For this cause, therefore, have I said unto you aforetime, he who doth not abandon father and mother and come and follow after me is not worthy of me. But you're supposed to honor your mother and your father. I have, therefore, said at that time, ye are to abandon your parents, the rulers, that I make you sons of the first mystery forever.
So you gotta rebel a little bit, maybe? Well, you gotta abandon your parents.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
Yeah, especially in that era when, basically they were your retirement package.
Yep. And when the Savior had said this, Salome started forward and said, My Lord, if our parents are the rulers, how standeth it written in the law of Moses, He who shall abandon his father and his mother, let him die the death. Hath not thus the law made statement thereon? And when Salome had said this, the light power in Mary Magdalene bubbled up in her, and she said to the Savior, My Lord, give commandment unto me that I discourse with my sister Salome, to tell her the solution of the word which she hath spoken. And it came to pass then, drink, when the Savior had heard Mary say these words, that he called her most exceedingly blessed. The Savior answered and said unto Mary, I give commandment unto thee, Mary, that thou speak the solution of the word which Salome hath spoken.
Okay, is this the first time they've used Mary Magdalene and not just said Mary?
Ooh.
Because I think this is the first mention of Mary Magdalene.
Could be. I don't want to read it again.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not digging through all them pages.
Nope.
And when the Savior had said this, Mary started forward to Salome, embraced her, and said unto her, My sister Salome, concerning the word which thou hast spoken, it standeth written in the law of Moses, He who shall abandon his father and his mother, let them die the death. Now therefore, my sister Salome, the law hath not said this concerning the soul, nor concerning the body, nor concerning the counterfeiting spirit. For all these are sons of the rulers, and are out of them. But the law hath said this concerning the power which hath come forth out of the Savior, and which is the light man within us today. So she's got a dude inside her. Not gonna touch that one. Whole lot of ways I could go, and a whole lot of trouble I could get into with some of them. So, the law hath moreover said, everyone who shall remain without the Savior and all his mysteries, his parents, will not only die the death, but go to ruin and destruction. So, sounds like Mary just contradicted God. That can't be good.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Mysterious ways.
Yeah.
When then Mary had said this, Salome started forward to Mary and embraced her anew. Salome said, The Savior hath power to make me understanding like thyself. But you don't talk too good. It came to pass, drink, when the Saviour had heard the words of Mary, that he called her most exceedingly blessed. The Saviour answered and said unto Mary in the midst of his disciples, Hearken therefore, Mary, who it is who compelleth the man until he sinneth. Now therefore the rulers seal the counterfeiting spirit to the soul, but so that it doth not agitate it every hour, making it do all sins and all iniquities. And they give commandment, moreover, unto the counterfeiting spirit, saying, If the soul cometh out of the body, do not agitate it, being assigned to it, and transferring it to all the regions of the judgments, region by region, on account of all the sins which thou hast made it do, in order that it may be chastised in all the regions of the judgments, so that it may not be able to go on high to the light and return into changes of the body.
In a word, they give commandment to the counterfeiting spirit, saying, Do not agitate it at all at any hour, unless it doth not speak mysteries, and unto all the seals and all the bonds with which have been bound thee to it. But if it saith the mysteries, and undoeth all the seals and all the bonds, and saith the apology of the region, and if it cometh, then let it go forth, for it belongeth to those of the light of the height, and hath become a stranger unto us and unto thee, and thou wilt not be able to seize it from this hour onwards. If, on the contrary, it saith not the mysteries of the undoing of thy bonds, and of thy seals, and of the apologies of the region, then seize it, and let it not out. Thou shalt transfer it to the chastisements and all the regions of the judgments, on account of all the sins which thou hast made it do. After this lead such souls before the Virgin of the Light, who sendeth them once more into the circuit.
Okay.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
The rulers of the great fate of the eons hand these over to the counterfeiting spirit, and the rulers summon the servitors of their eons to the number of 365, and give them the soul and the counterfeiting spirit, which are bound to one another. The counterfeiting spirit is the without of the soul, and the compound of the power is the within of the soul, being within both of them, in order that they may be able to stand, for it is the power which keepeth the two upright. And the rulers give commandment to the servitors, saying unto them, This is the type which ye are to put into the body of the matter of the world. They say unto them indeed, Put the compound of the power and within of the soul within them all, that they may be able to stand, for it is their uprightness, and after the soul put the counterfeiting spirit.
The only thing I got out of that was a reference to the days of the year.
Yep.
Which, well, we know this is post Julius Caesar, so at that point they did have a 365-day year.
Mm-hmm.
Thus they give commandment to their servitors, that they may deposit it into the bodies of the antitype. Is that like the anti-font?
I don't know.
And following this fashion, the servitors of the rulers bring the power and the soul and the counterfeiting spirit, bring them down to the world, and pour them out into the world of the rulers of the midst. The rulers of the midst look after the counterfeiting spirit, and also the destiny, whose name is Maora. That is a Greek goddess. Goddess of Maora, fate. If you look that up, it's one of the fates, if I'm not mistaken, or it's a term for fate. Leadeth the man until it hath him slain through the death appointed unto him. So, guys, if your death is appointed, then probably your whole life is leading up to that moment. So anything you do is the will of God, because that's how it was appointed. So you shouldn't go to hell because you did bad things. But you do. which the rulers of the great faith have bound to the soul. And the servitors of the spear bind the soul and the power and the counterfeiting spirit and the destiny. And they portion them all and make them into two portions, and seek after the man and also after the woman in the world, to whom they have given signs, in order that they may send them into them. And they give one portion to the man and one portion to the woman in a victual of the world, or in a breath of air, or in a water, or in any kind which they drink.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All this I will tell unto you in the species of every soul, and the type how they enter into the bodies, whether the men or of the birds or of cattle or of wild beasts or of reptiles or of all the other species of the world. I will tell you their type, in what type they came in, in what type they enter into man, and I will tell it to you at the expansion of the universe. Now, therefore, when the servitors of the rulers cast the one portion into the woman and the other into the man, in the fashion which I have told you, then the servitors secretly compel them, even if they are removed at very great distances from one another, so that they concert to be in a concert of the world, and the counterfeiting spirit which is in the man cometh to the portion which is entrusted to the world in the matter of his body, and lifteth it and casteth it down into the womb of the woman, into the portion which is entrusted to the seed of wickedness. Seems a bit misogynistic.
Kind of, though, with them talking about taking a soul and putting a portion of it in a man and then a portion of it in a woman, reminds me of one of the there's in one of the things of Plato, they're talking about love, and somebody describes has this theory that in ancient times man and woman were bound together. They were actually one being, and then Zeus got pissed at them or whatever and split them all in half, and that's why we seek out someone to love them.
Yeah.
So it's sort of seeming like that, but I don't know. Okay. I think this is the right spot. And in that hour, the 365 servitors of the ruler go into her womb and take up their abode in it. Man, that's a big coochie if you can fit a whole year in it.
Uh-huh.
The servitors bring the two portions, the one to the other, and moreover, the servitors withhold the blood of all the food. Your food should not have blood.
No.
I mean, if it's cooked, that blood's gone. If it's, it's meat, unless you're eating raw meat, you should not be any blood.
Well, blue rare.
Yeah, that's true. Of the woman which she will eat and which she will drink, and they withhold it in the womb of the woman for up to 40 days. And after 40 days, they need the blood of the power of all the food and knead it well in the woman's womb.
And this is need like bread, not like, I need this.
Yeah.
Like I need another hole in my bread.
Yeah.
After 40 days, they spend another 30 days in the building its members in the image of the body of the man. Each buildeth a member. Okay. I will tell you the decans who will build it, the body. I will tell them you at the expansion of the universe. If then, after this, the servitors shall have completed the whole body and all its members in 70 days, after this the servitors summon into the body which they have built. First, indeed, they summon the counterfeiting spirit. Thereafter, they summon the soul within them. And thereafter, they summon the compound of the power into the soul, and the destiny they put outside them all. as it is not blended with them, but following them and accompanying them. So you got the two parts of your soul plus some fate. All right, got it.
Yeah. That whole thing with the baby in the womb, and the 40 days. I've never been able to I've been able to pin down a couple of possibilities about why 40 days is so significant to so many religions. But this makes me wonder if it's not something tied to conception. I mean, and in that era, missing your period by 40 days wouldn't necessarily be an indication of being pregnant. But
diet, throat,
right,
mess with the cycle.
Right, but I'm wondering because there's a term. The quickening. Oh, not that. I don't want the Highlander shit. Yeah. Here, this is what I'm looking for. In pregnancy terms, the quickening is the moment in pregnancy when the pregnant woman starts to feel or perceive fetal movement in the uterus.
Oh, that's the quickening?
Yeah.
Huh. It
can be felt as early as 14 weeks.
Yeah, that's significantly more than 40 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's something's tied to that, I think. I'm going to have to bug some women who've had babies to see if they can figure. And after this, the servitors seal them one to the other with all the seals which the rulers have given them, and they seal the day on which they have taken up their abode in the womb of the woman. They seal it on the left hand of the plasm, and they seal the day on which they have completed the body on the right hand. And they seal the day on which the rulers have handed it over to them on the middle of the skull of the body of the plasm. And they seal the day on which the soul hath come forth out of the rulers. They seal it on the left of the skull of the plasm, and they sealed the day on which they kneaded the members and separated them for a soul. They seal it on the right of the skull of the plasm, and on the day which they have bound the counterfeiting spirit, to wit the soul, they seal on the back of the skull of the plasm. And the day on which the rulers have breathed the power into the body, they seal on the brain which is in the midst of the head of the plasm, and also on the inside the heart of the plasm. And the number of the years which the soul will spend in the body, they seal on the forehead which is on the plasm. And so they seal all those seals on the plasm. I will tell you the names of all these seals at the expansion of the universe, and after the expansion of the universe I will tell you wherefore all hath come to pass. And if ye could understand it, I am that mystery.
Seems a bit full of himself. Now, therefore, the servitors complete the whole man, and of all these seals with which they have sealed the body, the servitors carry the whole peculiarity and bring it to all the retributive rulers who are over all the chastisements of the judgments, and these hand it over to their receivers in order that they may lead their souls out of the bodies. They hand over to them the peculiarity of the seals in order that they may know the time when they are to lead the souls out of the bodies, and in order that they may know the time when they are to bring the birth of the body, so that they may send their servitors in order that they may draw near and follow the soul and bear witness of all the sins it shall do, they and the counterfeiting spirit, on account of the manner and way how they shall chastise it in the judgment. Dun dun dun.
And when the servitors have given the peculiarity of the seals to the retributive rulers, they withdraw themselves to the economy of their occupations, which is appointed unto them through the rulers of the great fate. And when the number of months of the birth of the babe is completed, the babe is born. Small in it is the compound of the power, and small in it is the soul, and small in it is the counterfeiting spirit. The destiny, on the contrary, is large, as it is not mingled into the body for their economy, but followeth the soul, and the body, and the counterfeiting spirit, until the time which the soul shall come forth out of the body, on account of the type of death by which it shall slay it, the body, according to the death appointed for it by the rulers of the great fate.
If he is to die by a wild beast, the destiny leadeth the wild beast against him until it slay him. Or is he to die by a serpent? Or is he to fall into a pit of mischance? Or is he to hang himself? Or is he to die in water? Or through such kinds of death? Or through another death which is worse or better than this? In a word, it is the destiny which forceth his death upon him. It is the occupation of the destiny, and it hath no other occupation but this, and the destiny followeth every man until the day of his death.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fosnuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.